Welcome to the NCC Drama Players Annual Spooktacular of radio thrills and live stream chills. My name is Nyx, your loving host for the evening. Tonight, we bring to you Suspense, a double radio feature and live stream drama calculated to keep you in suspense. Up first, we have a tale of love, greed, and a murder most foul, as we gaze at Murder Through the Looking Glass by Michael Venning. For you old-timers, you'll find it fascinating to know that our leading character was originally voiced by Academy Award winner Gregory Peck. Although we aren't killing a mockingbird, we are bringing you a story of murder and mystery. The story of dangerous personalities is directed by Lisa Cooper and Eva Williams and brought to you by Big Bang Radio and Studio 67, featuring the lovely talents of the Nash Community College drama players. So, without further ado, we bring to you Murder Through the Looking Glass. I do advise you, it's gonna be a messy one, well calculated to keep you in suspense.
The sound was a dull, monotonous roar in my ears, and I listened, wondering if it were real or part of a dream. Then, suddenly, I was awake, and I knew I was riding on a train, but where? I don't remember getting on a train. I opened my eyes and I saw I was in the lounge car. There was only darkness through the window. A woman sat across from me, reading. There was a bridge game across the aisle, porter serving drinks. Everything was nice and normal, except I had no idea how I got on the train, nor why I was there. I tried to think of a reason for being there, but it was too much of a strain. I leaned back and closed my eyes and listened to the rhythm of the train. A melody began to fit itself to the rhythm. I can't remember having heard such a song, but somehow I knew the words. Down in the valley, valley so low, hear the train whistle, hear the train blow.
I beg your pardon, sir, but your singing is disturbing the other passengers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You understand, sir? It's the other passengers. I quite like your singing myself.
I hadn't even realized I was singing aloud. It was just that the song was stuck in my memory. For a moment, I'd had the feeling I'd been waiting in some bar for someone to make a phone call, and a jukebox was playing that song, but the memory slipped from me. Everything was unreal, as if I were still half asleep. I had felt that way before. There had been several times after parties when I'd had too much to drink, and I'd wake up to find that several days had passed, and I remember nothing about them. But I'd never before found myself on a train. I shook myself, and the drowsiness left me. There was a woman sitting across from me, looking up from her newspaper with a smile.
Your singing didn't disturb me either, young man. In fact, it was a rather pretty melody. What's the name of it?
Oh, it's you know, it's silly, but I can't even remember. I can't remember the tune now.
That's the way it is with songs. I've had the same thing happen to me.
What train is this?
7 o'clock. p.m., that is. Yes, you must have been on some party if it lasted all day.
What time is it?
7 o'clock. Oh, it's 7 o'clock p.m., that is. Yes, sir. It really must have been some party out where you were.
I think she said something else after that, but I wasn't listening then. I had noticed I was wearing a brown coat that wasn't mine. Maybe I accidentally exchanged coats with someone. If I couldn't remember, it had probably been that kind of party. If so, I felt for my wallet. It was there. I opened it to see if I had any money left, and my eye was caught by the driver's license made out to John Blake. In another pocket of the wallet, there were engraved cards reading John Blake Insurance. Everything was there, only I wasn't John Blake. I was Jeffrey Bruno, a writer. I couldn't even drive a car, and I didn't know anything about insurance. I'd never heard of a John Blake, but here was his identification in my wallet.
What's the matter, young fellow? Are you ill?
The woman across from me said something, but I didn't hear what it was. I looked through the other pockets. There was a bank book showing that John Blake had a bank balance of $647.55. My balance had never been higher than $15. There was a letter, a bill for shirts, addressed to John Blake at an address I'd never heard of before. There was a moment, a few crazy seconds, when I wondered if I really was John Blake. But I shook my head and it was gone. I knew I was Jeffrey Bruno, who lived in a two-room apartment in Greenwich Village and wrote suspense stories for a living. I knew who I was.
Here. Yeah, right. The weather was so hot in there. Probably do something.
Oh, wow.
Well, here we are. Or are you going on to downtown?
I could get a train back to New York here, couldn't I?
Sure, right across on the other platform. That must have been some party.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Member of Old Philadelphia, New York family murdered. Killer believed to be at large. Read all about it.
I had to get back to New York and straighten out this business about John Blake's coat and identification. He, whoever he was, might even think I'd stolen them, and I wanted to find out where I had been all day and the night before, and why I'd awakened on a train to Philadelphia.
Extra, killer fleeing New York police. Read all about it.
Then, just as I got up from my seat, I glanced out of the window. The newsgirl was holding up a newspaper. Across the top was the big headline, "Killer Blake Escapes." And just below it, there was a photograph of me. Pulling down my hat and turning up my coat collar, I managed to get on a train to New York without anyone recognizing me. Then, just before the train pulled out, a man came in and sat beside me. He pulled a newspaper from his pocket and opened to the comics. My first feeling was one of relief, but then I realized he was holding the paper so that the photograph on the first page was right beside my face. I slipped down the seat, let my hat slide over my face, and pretended to be asleep. The train pulled into New York, and I was about to get up when I thought of something. If the police thought I had left New York, then that was the safest place for me. But the police might still be watching all the railway stations. I mean, after all, Manhattan is an island, and until they were sure, they would watch every exit. I waited until the other passengers left the car, and then I quickly crossed and raised one of the windows. It was a tight fit, but I managed to get out of the windows and drop to the tracks. I started across toward one of the ramps and...
Hey, you! Don't you know it's against the law to walk across those tracks?
I didn't dare be stopped now. I ran, leaping over the rails, barely aware of the huge headlight moving to meet me. Then I ran across the last track, just missing a big diesel, and the cars blotted out my pursuers. No one paid any attention to me as I went down the subway ramp, and no one in the subway ever looks to anyone else. I got off at the next express stop and walked the 2 blocks toward my apartment. I stopped at the corner stand to buy a newspaper, not thinking that the dealer might have recognized my picture until I had already asked for the paper. Luckily, she folded the picture as she handed it to me.
There you are, Mr. Bruno. I haven't seen you around for a couple of days.
Yeah, I've been busy.
Oh, you know, I saw your picture somewhere today. You got a story in one of those magazines, maybe.
No, goodbye.
Wait a minute. I remember where I saw your picture.
Look, I gotta go. You can tell me about it tomorrow. I had to get away before she remembered or looked down and saw my picture on her papers. And I had to get the mistaken identity cleared up fast, because she'd call the police and they'd be looking for Jeffrey Bruno as well as John Blake. There were a lot of letters for me in my box, too many for just one delivery. When I was in my apartment, I looked at them. 2 of the letters had been postmarked in New York 3 days before. It didn't take 3 days for letters to be delivered locally. Where had I been for 3 days? Who's there?
Rosalie.
Oh, Rosalie. All right, just a minute.
I thought I heard someone in here. A friend of yours stopped by, but you weren't home. He ran into me in the stairs, asked if I lived here, and then wanted me to give you a message. Burnett was his name. Bill, I think he said.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Rosalie. Stay and talk to me. We can have coffee or a drink. Wait, when did you say Bill was here?
Yesterday morning. He said something about having had a date with you the night before, but you never showed.
Yesterday morning? Oh, yes.
What is the matter, Jeffrey? Don't you feel well?
Oh, sure, yeah, I feel fine. Rosalie, I realize you don't know me too well, but do I ever do anything out of the ordinary? I mean, have I ever seemed strange?
You mean, are you? You've always seemed very sane to me, if that's what you mean, in spite of your vanishing acts.
My what?
The times you disappear. You don't know? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, let me finish that for you. You mean the days when I've awakened, thinking it was Tuesday, only it turned out to be Thursday, you know? You didn't mean just have, one drink too many and forget about Tuesday and Wednesday. You mean I disappeared for those days, I went somewhere else, God forbid I maybe became somebody else.
I wouldn't have said anything, Jeffrey, but I thought you knew. Maybe you stayed with friends on those days you weren't here.
Well, I mean, then why don't I remember? I've thought about it before. I've heard of people pulling blanks, as I've said, like when they've had too much to drink, but yeah, maybe it's something different.
What is, Jeffrey?
I told her all about it. All I knew anyways. At first she was frightened, but then I guess she felt sorry for me and got over it. Before, Rosalie had always just been a beautiful, desirable girl. I'd had drinks with her a few times in her apartment or mine, but that was all. Not that I hadn't wanted to take her out, but she was a model and I was sure that she led a glamorous life with rich men begging to take her out. She had looked too expensive for a guy like me, so she remained the girl next door in my life. But now, she didn't look as glamorous. She looked understanding. I needed that, for I was beginning to believe that the explanation of John Blake wasn't as simple as I first thought.
I'm glad I came in, Jeffrey. You need someone, and it doesn't matter whether you're John Blake or not.
Well, I mean, it matters to me. I know I'm Jeffrey Bruno and not some guy named John Blake. I mean, I can remember my whole life, living on the farm, going to school, coming to New York, writing a paper. I can remember every minute of it.
Every minute?
Well, no, not every minute.
You know, Jeff, such things can happen. White, bearded old men with eyeglasses write books about such things. They've got a word for it. I can't pronounce it. But it means you can be two people at one time and not know it. So maybe
I'm John Blake, too. I was way ahead of you in thinking that.
And if you are, that's a sickness, and people can't get over being sick. Maybe you remember all the things John Blake did, and...
I already know one thing he did. He killed someone. God, I don't know who or how, but John Blake, murdered someone.
You brought a paper home. Why not find out? Jeffrey, whatever happens, we'll find a way to work it out.
All right, thank you, Rosalie. His name was Rufus Carrington. He was an old man and wealthy. I, John Blake, worked for his niece, Regina Gunn. There's money missing from the firm, and it's believed that Rufus Carrington may have found out about it. Regina Gunn arrived to see her uncle this morning and was told by the butler that the old man was in the study with an unknown caller. Regina Gunn was talking to the butler when they heard the old man cry out. They ran to the study and found him dead. The niece saw me, the killer, escaping, and recognized him. Well, if I were John Blake, my other self didn't do things in a small way.
Jeffrey.
All right, well, I never wanted the things John Blake must have wanted. I never wanted riches, never thought of going to a business like insurance. Maybe that's why. Maybe if I'd wanted those things that most people wanted, some hidden part of me wouldn't have become John Blake and willing to kill to get those things.
They'll understand, Jeff. They have people who understand things like that.
Rosalie, whatever happens, promise me that if you don't like Jeffrey Bruno, that you'll like John Blake. But just like one of us. It doesn't matter which one it is.
I like you, whichever one you are.
You see, Rosalie, I'm innocent, even if John Blake isn't. I haven't murdered anyone. It was another part of me. But, if I try to run away, they'll find me, they'll hurt me for what John Blake did. It's just, God, where can I go and what can I do?
You can go to the police and tell them the whole truth. Because, you see, they can't do anything to you. You're not responsible for what you did as John Blake.
Yes, maybe you're right. I mean, there's no point in running. I know I have no right to ask it, but will you go with me, Rosalie?
Of course I will, Jeff.
I mean, it's like I'm being haunted, knowing that somewhere inside of me there's another man, never knowing when I'll be him. God, say, If I turn to John Blake before we get there, will you tell him about me?
Our theater of thrills and outstanding daily dose of suspense will be right back after these messages.
Nice and hot, just like I like it. I hope the steam doesn't mess up my hair. Oh man, my hair is ruined. How am I going to fix it?
I have a delivery for Miss Hunter.
Yes, that's my mommy.
Can you give this to her for me?
Oh, mommy, look at this. The mailman dropped off a package for you.
Thanks, sweetie. Taste of Paris? Let's try it. Hopefully it fixed my dry hair. Smells just like paradise. Who would have thought? I knew I was right to buy a Taste of Paris.
TLP keeps your hair in place from tiny kids to simple steamy showers. It keeps your hair looking shiny and healthy. Get Taste of Paris at your local beauty salon today for only $2.99. Get Taste of Paris today.
A taste of Paris is all you need. Keeps your hair nice and clean. A taste of Paris is all you need.
And now back to our show. Oh, how I do love a good murder in the evening. Almost as good as the morning, but even that takes a lot of moxie. But either way, it's time to learn about the mysterious John Blake as we return to Murder Through the Looking Glass. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Rosalie was right. I thought about it as we walked down the stairs. They'd know what to do with a case like mine. They'd know that Jeffrey Bruno wasn't responsible for what John Blake did. I mean, they'd know they couldn't send me up to the electric chair for what he did. Of course, they would lock me up for my own good, and then they'd leave me in there and... Oh, God. But wait, Rosalie. You're right, I can't run away, but first I've got to know about the other me, about John Blake. All I know is he murdered someone, and I have to know the other things about him. You know, what he was really like.
I understand, Jeff, but you mustn't do anything foolish, anything that will hurt you.
Well, I have to know about my other life. You know, what kind of books I read, what kind of girls I like. You can see that's important, can't you?
Of course, Jeff. I just thought of something. I know a woman, a psychiatrist. Maybe if we called her, you could see her tonight. She'd understand. She'd know what to do. Will you?
I'll do anything that'll help me understand what I was like when I was John Blake and why I was like that.
I'll go into the drugstore here and call her. I'm sure she'll see you, and we'll do whatever she says.
All right. She came back and said she'd see me. We rode uptown in a taxi. Sometime during the ride, when fear of us trying to find out, moved into the cab and sat beside me, Rosalie reached out and took my hand. It was such a small thing, but it made me feel I wasn't alone. The psychiatrist lived in an apartment on Park Avenue. She left Rosalie sitting in the living room and took me into her study. There she listened while I told my story.
Mr. Bruno, you say there have been many times where you haven't remembered what happened for days?
Well, I mean, not many. A few times it only happened after I'd been, drinking, and I thought that was all until this mess.
I see. A very interesting case.
But what is it, doctor? I mean, I've done some reading on psychiatry. Is it split personality?
Schizophrenia? It's very possible. For instance, subconsciously, you might have had a desire for things which consciously you had convinced yourself were bad. That desire became so great that you created John Blake so you could satisfy it without compromising Jeffrey Bruno.
But wouldn't I be partly aware of wanting those things? I mean, isn't it possible that I'm not John Blake and that all of this is something else?
I'll let you answer that yourself, Mr. Bruno.
How can I? If I could answer it, I wouldn't be here.
Mr. Bruno, do you honestly believe that there is a real person named John Blake, a person who looks exactly like you, a person whose coat and identification came accidentally into your possession, a person who has only been seen when you were missing?
I mean, no, but I guess I don't. But there's got to be another explanation. There has to.
The alternative would be to believe that someone is framing you. Do you believe that someone drugged you several times so there would be days you couldn't account for? That someone forged the papers of John Blake and planted them on you? Can you believe that someone planned to commit this murder months ago, rented an apartment in the name of John Blake, filled it with clothing in your size, put your photograph in the apartment?
But
The niece of the murder victim was the only person to identify your picture. Therefore, she would have been the one to frame you. This would imply that this Regina Gunn knew you and you knew her. Did you?
no, I don't remember her.
Then can you believe that she was able to drug you, to know your clothes size, to get a photograph of you?
I guess not.
The hypothesis that she framed you carries with it the implication that she must be the real murderer. But this would be destroyed by the evidence of the butler that the niece was with him at the time the murder took place. You see, Mr. Bruno?
I see. Well, I mean, what can I do, Doctor?
If this were not a murder case, the answer would be a simple one. I'd undertake to treat you. But, as it is, I'm afraid I must suggest you go to the police.
I suppose you're right.
I'll help you all I can, young man. I'll be glad to testify as to your condition, and I'm sure the state will give you every consideration and a chance to be treated. I'm sorry I can't do more than that. If you'd only come to me sooner.
Jeff, is there any chance, Doctor?
Under the circumstances, it's too late for me to do anything directly. I've advised Mr. Bruno to go to the police.
Come, Jeff, I'll go with you.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Doctor.
Not at all. Sorry I can't do more. Good night.
Good night. I'm sorry, Jeff, but they'll have to believe you to understand. They can't make you suffer for what you did as John Blake, and then when you're well,
When I'm well, what?
we'll see.
There's one more thing I want to do before I go to the police, Rosalie. I want to see the apartment that I lived in when I was John Blake. I still don't know what he was like, so I want to know what it was like when I was being him. Maybe if I can only see how he lived, it'll have more meaning. Okay, let's see. The address ought to be along some here.
Wouldn't
somewhere.
it be on the other side of the street?
Well, yes, but from this side, we can see if there's a cop posted in the lobby. I mean, I doubt if there will be since they think I've run out. But...
There it is, Jeff, right across the street.
Uh-huh, and the lobby's empty. Now, let's see. The address on the letter is apartment 203.
Wasn't there anything in the letter?
It was a bill. It seems I'm not only an embezzler and a murderer, but I didn't pay John Blake's bills.
Please, Jeff, don't joke about it.
Yeah, well, all right, Rosalie, no joking. I don't think it's very funny either. Now, if I were John Blake, I'd have a key to my own apartment. Okay, this must be it. I don't remember seeing it before, but the number 203 is stamped on it. Well, Rosalie?
I'll stay here and warn you if the police come. Good luck, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. There was a self-service elevator, and I rode it up to the second floor. I, too, was deserted, and I walked to the door of of my apartment. I hesitated, wondering how many times I had gone through the door, what had gone on beyond it. The key worked, and I stepped inside. The place seemed empty. I turned on the light. It was a small apartment, inexpensive, perfectly correct, and dull. There were hunting prints on the wall, all the latest novels on the shelf, unread. No wonder I wanted to forget about John Blake. He was so unimaginative. Anyone could have furnished that apartment. There was cheap scotch in the kitchen, uninspired cans of food on the shelves, nothing else. I tried the bedroom next. There were 2 suits in the wardrobe, my size all right, even though I couldn't remember buying them. There were plenty of correct white shirts in the dresser, none of the sports shirts that Jeffrey Bruno liked to wear. There were even monogrammed handkerchiefs. It was unreal, yet I had to believe that these things belonged to me. There have been times where I liked wearing them, I suppose. My head was spinning and I leaned up against the wall. I don't know how long I stood there, unaware of anything except the pain inside. Gradually, I was aware that someone was knocking on the door, but it was several seconds before I located it. It was at my door. The police? No, Rosalie said she'd warn me.
Open up in there. This is the police.
It was the police. I wasn't ready to give myself up yet. I ran to the window. There was a fire escape outside.
Open up or we'll break it down.
I raised the window and looked out. I couldn't see anyone.
Okay, boys, let's go in.
I had to take a chance there wasn't a cop at the bottom of the fire escape. I climbed out and closed the window. As they started to break in, I ran down the fire escape. I jumped to the ground and looked around the corner. There was one man sitting in the police car. I turned and ran the other way. I must have ran 2 blocks before I heard the footsteps behind me. I turned and it was Rosalie.
Jeff! Oh, Jeff!
You're part of it too. You said you'd warn me.
But I did, Jeff. I rang the buzzer twice while they were getting out of the car. I saw you getting away. I thought you heard it. You must have heard it.
You rang twice? I guess the bell must be out of order, just like John Blake. I didn't hear it. I almost didn't hear them knocking. I'm sorry, Rosalie. I don't know.
It doesn't matter, Jeff. I was so frightened.
You mustn't be. All right? I promise I won't do anything to involve you or hurt you.
I wasn't thinking of myself. You can't go on like this, Jeff. You've got to go in. Give yourself a chance to get well.
I know. Upstairs there for a minute, I thought of running away and going to some small town and changing my name. That wouldn't get rid of John Blake, and it's no good to go through life listening for footsteps. And that's what it would be, wondering when they were and, when they would catch up to me.
Then?
Hold on a minute. Rosalie, do you know what time it is? It's only 10 o'clock. Up to 3 hours ago, I'd never even heard of John Blake. It's a whole lifetime, and that of 3 hours. John Blake's lifetime. I lived that. And it's a lifetime I have to give up to the police. But first, I gotta know why. Another hour won't make any difference to the police.
All right, Jeff. Where are we going?
Not we, Rosalie. I'm not gonna involve you in this anymore. You've been too kind. I was John Blake, and I did the things that John Blake did. And I have to see it through to the finish.
At least tell me where you're going.
It'll be better if you don't know.
Please, Jeff.
No, this is the way it has to be, okay? And then if it turns out worse than we think, you can just remember that for a few hours, you were friendly to someone who needed it. If I come through this, and if I get well, Rosalie?
Yes, Jeff?
Well, as you said, we'll see. I put Rosalie in a cab and gave the driver the address to the village. Then I went to the place where I was afraid to go, yet it was the one place that I had to go.
Yes, sir.
Are you Mr. Carrington's butler?
Yes, sir. Clark is the name. I was in Mr. Carrington's service for 40 years. But why do you ask?
Don't you recognize me?
I don't believe so, sir. Of course, there were so many of you here today from the newspapers and...
But I was here even earlier. I'm John Blake.
Then you're the gentleman that everyone is saying murdered Mr. Carrington, according to the newspapers.
Why do you say according to the newspapers?
I don't believe you killed Mr. Carrington, sir.
You don't? Why not?
Why, he didn't know you, sir.
Well, maybe he only got acquainted with me this morning. You know, when I came to kill him.
If he had made an appointment with you, sir, I would have known.
Oh, but didn't you let me in to see him?
No, sir. He entered the door himself when his visitor arrived.
I see. Is Mr. Carrington's niece here?
Oh, Miss Gunn? Yes, sir. But she left word not to be disturbed.
Oh, she did she?
Yes, sir.
Clark, did Mr. Carrington have a gun?
He did. Yes, sir.
Would you trust me with it if it might help catch the murderer?
Under these circumstances, I believe I would, sir. Won't you step in? I was very fond of Mr. Carrington, sir. He kept the gun here in the hall near the door. Here it is, sir. I'm an old man myself, and perhaps I'm foolish.
Now take me to see Miss Gunn.
But I can't do that, sir.
Clark!
Pardon me, sir. Yes, Miss Gunn?
Who are you talking to, Clark? Is that the attorney?
No, ma'am. It's,
Wait a minute. I know that voice. I'm sorry, Clark.
What the devil, you?
Yes, me, Miss Gunn, or should I say, Dr. Gunn?
Clark, leave the room. This is all a terrible mistake.
Oh, you bet it is. And I want to hear why the niece of the man I'm supposed to have murdered is also the psychiatrist who convinced me that I was crazy and ought to surrender to the police. Don't move.
Don't point that gun at me. I'm expecting a phone call from the attorney about the will. Then I'm sure we can straighten things out. I'll give you money.
We'll straighten it out now without money. You killed your uncle, didn't you?
No, I was with Clark. He can tell you.
Then you had someone else kill him for you. Someone you arranged for him to see. And there never was a John Blake. You made me think I had been John Blake. That's why I couldn't remember anything. Don't answer that.
Clark will answer it then. And he knows I'm here, and...
Then let Clark answer it. But I'm gonna get the truth out of you before you have the chance to talk to anyone.
I meant you no harm.
You meant... Well, I mean, not much. You just wanted me to take your seat in the electric chair. You told me the whole thing when you were posing as a psychiatrist, didn't you? You told me the truth, making me think it hadn't been like that. You told me about being drugged so I couldn't remember days. You told me renting the apartment, putting my picture in clothes that would fit me in it. The only thing you didn't tell me was about the person who killed your uncle and helped frame me.
I beg your pardon, ma'am, but it's an urgent call.
Don't move. If it's so urgent, I'll take it for you. Yes?
Regina, I had to call. He hasn't gone to the police yet. Regina, are you there?
Yes. I can't talk right now. The attorney's here.
Wait, Regina. I think he's on his way over there. Careful, Regina.
All right.
You don't sound right. Are you getting frightened again? After all we've done so far, you've got to keep your nerve up. I'm coming over, Regina.
Good.
I'll be there in 10 minutes. Stall him when he arrives. Goodbye, Regina.
Goodbye, Rosalie. Clark.
Yes, sir.
Earlier, you said that Mr. Carrington answered the door himself. Was that not unusual?
Most unusual, sir. He only answered the door for close friends or when he was younger. Young ladies.
Oh. Well, he opened the door for a beautiful young lady after a date had been made by Regina Gunn.
I told him she was blackmailing me, and I wanted him to see her because he had experience dealing with that sort of thing. But I swear, Rosalie didn't tell me she was going to kill.
But you knew she was going to. Clark, call the police. Tell them that by the time they arrive, the murderer of Mr. Carrington will be here.
And that, dames and gents, was Murder Through the Looking Glass by Michael Venning. I love a good plot twist. Who would have thought? But you can't dress the broad with a body like that. I mean, look at me. Anyways, we'll be right back with Suspense a double feature and live stream drama. Don't go anywhere. We've still got more excitement awaiting.
Dark Knight sleeping pills are endorsed by the Dark Knight himself.
That's me.
So, why did you decide to approve our product?
Because it was named after me, of course.
Well, Batman, what do you have to tell us about your experience as the Dark Knight?
Well, when that light hits the sky, it's not just a calling, it's a warning to them.
Who's them? Who's them? Who's them? Who's them?
The people who tried to catch me doing my job, the people who stay up all hours of the night. Most are having insomnia, but others just don't want to go to sleep.
So, Batman, is that the main reason you approved our product?
Yes, I need something to help the people go to sleep throughout the night.
And our product seems best to fit the job?
Nothing is better than Dark Knight.
You're right about that. I'm a big fan.
Can we test the pills on her first?
Ha, I knew I'd like you in person. I do.
There you heard it, guys. Get Dark Knight today. Available at your local pharmacy. Dark Knight helps you get an efficient and deep sleep for your sake and for others. It has been tested to be 100% safe if you follow the instructions.
Instructions include taking no more than 2 pills in 48 hours and eat before you take them. Side effects can lead to diarrhea, nausea, back pain, heart pain, cancer, bronchitis, diabetes, dizziness, weight gain, weight loss, mood swings, depression, swelling, fatigue, and in special cases, death.
Dark Knight with the sleeping pills, with extra skills that will make you have chills.
Welcome back, Sugar, to Welcome back, Sugar, to Suspense. For our second feature, Big Bang Radio and Studio 67, featuring the lovely talents of the Nash Community College drama players, bring you the outstanding murder mystery, Catch Me If You Can, a suspense play, directed by Lisa Cooper and Eva Williams. This story is a doozy. Let's just say, I'm jealous I didn't think of it myself. But you couldn't catch me working that hard. Seriously. Join me and Catch Me If You Can by Patt McGerr to see if they will. And now, the NCC drama players present a tale well calculated to keep you in. Suspense.
Let me talk as long as I can. It's my last chance to explain about Phil and all the trouble I had afterwards. Phil got me into this mess the night he died. I sat near his bed, waiting for him to fall asleep, and he said,
Margot, was there anything in that milk you gave me tonight?
"Why, of course, darling. Dr. Landers prescribed it. A sedative."
Oh. You're a beautiful woman, Margot. Very beautiful. Yes.
He was taking so long to fall asleep. It was already after 3 in the morning. I listened to the wind. Phil and I were all alone, stuck in that godforsaken mountain inn ever since he fell ill just before Labor Day. There we were, 10,000 feet above sea level, not a soul for miles. The fall season was over, and all the other guests were gone, and even Joe, who owns the inn, had gone down to Leadville to get his winter supplies. I shivered, thinking of the dark, ragged, lonesome mountains outside, and Phil opened his eyes again.
You're a good actress, Margot. Better off the stage than you were on, I expect. But I know you're fed up with our marriage. Have been ever since I became ill.
I haven't complained, Phil.
No, it wouldn't fit the part. But you feel trapped out here in Colorado, don't you? You'd rather be in New York. I wonder, Margot, those pills you put on my lunch tray last week, they weren't my regular vitamin pills. Maybe you want your freedom and my money. Enough to poison me.
Don't be ridiculous, Phil.
Well, anyway, I didn't take them. I hid them with a note saying that you tried to give them to me. Then I called a friend of mine, long distance, an old friend.
Who?
A detective named Rocky Rhodes. Rocky and I both stayed at this inn one summer.
And what did you tell this Rocky?
Never mind what I told him. Just remember, he's due here tonight or in the morning.
A detective? Phil, you're a fool.
I want a divorce, Margot.
You do?
Yes, without any strings. Those pills are Exhibit A. If they're poison.
Blackmail. Phil, darling, if you want a divorce, you can have it without threatening me.
You'll sign the papers tomorrow?
Of course, darling. I only want to make you happy. But now, go to sleep, Phil. You need a good rest. Go to sleep. I stroked his forehead, and the sedative finally took effect. His breathing became heavy and even. I looked at him and thought, he was smart not to take those pills, but not smart enough. He shouldn't have told me about that detective. He thought he was protecting himself, that I wouldn't dare do anything now. But he was wrong because I had to now. I couldn't afford to wait and lose everything when he divorced me. And besides, I'd find those pills and the letter before the detective got here. There was practically no risk the way I planned it this time. Outside, it had started to rain. A heavy downpour. And the only other sound in the world was Phil's breathing. I picked up the extra pillow, put it down carefully over his face. He didn't move. I pressed the pillow down on the sides so that no air could get in, no air at all, and held it there a long time. Once, the pillow shook a little when Phil's head moved. Once, there was a gurgling sound, and that was all. When I lifted the pillow and put it back in its place, the job was done. Everything I ever wanted, money and freedom, was right in my hands. Phil was dead. Dead of a heart attack, Dr. Landers would say. Wait a minute. Unless someone found those pills with a note from Phil. Phil had died of poison, so I was safe. But there would be questions I didn't want asked. I had to find those pills myself. I started to search. First, the pillow under Phil's head. No. Then the nightstand beside his bed. The desk under the window. Where could he have hidden it? After all, the bell. Could it be Phil's detective already? Rocky roads. I have to be very careful. Just a minute, I'm coming. Just a minute. Yes? Well, don't stand there, it's raining in.
Oh, I'm sorry, I think I'm lost. I'm looking for Pineview Lodge.
You are lost. This is the fisherman's net.
I know, I saw the sign.
It's closed for the winter.
Could you put me up?
The manager's away. There's only me and my husband.
Luck of the Irish. I meet a beauty. And she's married every time. But you wouldn't turn me out in this storm. I'm soaking wet.
I'm afraid.
Please, just tonight. In the morning, I'll get my bearings.
Well, if it's only for one night.
That's all, thanks. What a vacation.
Where are you from?
Chicago. Newspaper gal. Name's Mickey Sheldon.
How you do, Miss Sheldon? I'm Mrs. Weatherby.
How do you do? Where do I bunk? Upstairs?
Yes, you can take the trout room. Every room is named for a different kind of fish. It's the second room on the right from the top of the stairs.
Thanks. It's great of you to let me stay.
Would you like some hot coffee?
Fine, if it's no trouble.
Not at all. I was gonna make some for myself.
I could use some, all right.
No, wait! Not that room, no.
What's wrong, Mrs. Weatherby?
I said the second door on the right. The salmon room, not the trout room. I made a mistake. Forgive me, but this is my husband's room, and he's not well. I was afraid you'd wake him up. That was bad. Very bad, making a slip like that in front of Phil's detective, Rocky Roads. Because, of course, Mickey Sheldon was Rocky Roads. Who else could she be? And I had to find those pills before she did and started making trouble. But before I could get back to my search, 2 more unexpected guests popped up at the fisherman's net. A small, dapper man with a black mustache and slicked black hair.
But I'm Charlie Miller. I got a reservation here and I'm staying, sister.
But the manager is away. He didn't mention any reservations.
He must have forgot then. I made it by telephone from KC. That is, I asked a friend of mine to make it.
A friend of his? Was that Phil? Was Charlie Miller Rocky Roads? But he couldn't be a detective. He was too stupid. No, Mickey Sheldon was Rocky Roads. There was a girl with Charlie Miller. A drab, dull little thing with cropped hair and a shiny face. And absolutely no feeling for clothes. I thought she was Mrs. Miller.
Oh no, I'm Susan Quinn. Mr. Miller and I met on the bus.
And we're great pals right off. I call her Susie Q. Get it?
Yes. But the initials on your suitcase are SR, Miss Quinn?
Oh, I borrowed my sister Sheila's suitcase. Sheila Riley. She's married. Sheila and I always borrow each other's things.
Was it true? Or was her name Susan Rhodes, nicknamed Rocky Roads? Things were getting more complicated every minute. 3 people had arrived, and Sheldon seemed the most like a detective. It was too late then for me to go hunting for the pills. It was morning. In case questions were asked later, I had to be able to say I had done what a wife with a sick husband ought to do. I I had to take Phil his breakfast on a tray.
Well, Mrs. W., you're an early bird. Here, let me help you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Miller. This is my husband's breakfast, if you'll open the door.
Sure thing. There you are.
Thank you. Phil? Phil, dear, I brought you...
Something wrong, Mrs. Weatherby?
My husband, he looks...
Anything I can do? Say, he does look pretty green at that. Mr. Weatherby. Mr. Wet. You better sit down. It looks to me like your husband has passed away.
Oh, no.
Here now, sit down. Cry on Uncle Charlie's shoulder. It'll do you good.
You're very kind.
Good morning.
Say, Sheldon, we've got a little trouble here.
Trouble, Mrs. Weatherby?
Well, her husband passed away in his sleep, looks like.
I brought his breakfast and thought he was asleep and... Somebody phoned off Phil's doctor, Dr. Landers in Salisbury Camp.
Of course, but...
Excuse me. I'm afraid I better go to my room.
Miss Weatherby? Miss Weatherby?
Oh, Miss Quinn. What happened? Have I been asleep?
Well, when you got to your room, you fainted.
I still feel rather faint.
I brought you some brandy. Could you drink a little?
Not now. I couldn't. Where's Mr. Miller and Miss Sheldon?
They're moving your husband's body.
No, they mustn't.
Dr. Landers told Mickey to on the phone. The rain turned to snow during the night, and he won't be able to get here because of the storm. Not until the snowplow gets through. So he thought it best we put Mr. Weatherby...
Not outdoors.
No, there's a hillside cellar out back.
Oh, yes. What else did Dr. Landers say about Phil?
He said it must have been a heart attack. And that you have nothing in the world with which to reproach yourself. He's sure you did everything you could.
We'll be right back with more Ace commentary and overall crazy controversy after this message from our sponsor.
Do you want to keep the glamorous skin you once had even as you continue to get older? Were you watching the play wondering, how does Margot keep her beautiful appearance throughout her life as an actress? Well, we're going to let you in on her little secret. Margot presents to you the new Margot's Miracle Cream. Throughout my life as an actress, it was important to me to stay beautiful for as long as possible. Once I found the way to do this, I wanted to share it with other women that are starting to age. This cream will help you age 2 times slower than normal. Really? Yes. Not only does Margot's Miracle Cream slow your aging down, it helps you to feel more confident and look like you've returned to a younger version of yourself. What about the price? You can buy this Miracle Cream at the low price of only $2.99 for our 6-ounce container and $4.99 for our 10-ounce container. But how does it work? To get the best results with the least amount of time, use the 3 steps that can be found on the side of the container. Using a dime-size amount of this cream once a day will have the active companies ready to make you the next big thing. Sign me up. Go to your local drugstore today to buy Margot's Miracle Cream.
Welcome back. You're just in time for the return of Catch Me If You Can. Now, is it just me, or is this broad starting to lose her marbles? What will this caged tiger do next? Let's return to our radio and live stream outstanding theater of thrills and Catch Me If You Can. A tale well calculated to keep you in. Suspense.
I kept up my act all that day, and I didn't overplay it. I was not the type for floods of tears, so I adopted a wan, gentle sadness, which made the others think of me very brave. But all the time, there were two things on my mind, driving me crazy. Who was Rocky Rhodes, and where had Phil hidden the pills? And I couldn't hunt for them. Somebody was always in my room fussing over me. Finally, in the late afternoon, I managed to get away. I just started to look through Phil's clothes when...
Oh, here you are. I was looking for you. No snowplow will get through here today. I'll just have to put up with Charlie Miller's jokes another evening.
Are his jokes that bad?
Well, you heard him bragging Susan, calling her Susie Q?
Oh, yes. Nicknames. Lots of people have a nickname habit. My husband had a friend named Rose. He nicknamed Rocky Rhodes.
It's a change from Dusty Rhodes at any rate. By the way, where are you from?
Boston. Why do you ask?
Just idle curiosity.
You know what they say about curiosity. Would you excuse me, please? I was going over my husband's things.
Go right ahead. I'll just keep you company. Are you looking for something?
No. I want to pack so I can leave as soon as possible. I want to get back to New York.
Don't blame you there. Need any help?
No, thank you. As a matter of fact, would you mind? I'd rather be alone.
Oh no, it's not good for you to be alone. I'll just stay here and keep you company.
Oh.
Did you say something?
No,
Oh, here's a book on Oscar Wilde. Why don't I read to you while you work? Let me see. Say, did your husband own all those shoes?
He did.
Wealthy man, apparently. How nice for you. Now, how about some poetry? Well, let's try this one. The poor dead woman whom he loved and murdered in her bed. Shall I go on, Mrs. Weatherby?
But I couldn't let Sheldon unnerve me. I had to keep my cool. I went on packing, and she went on reading, on and on, endlessly, about blood and prisons and hanging. Well, I tried not to miss anything of Phil's. I had to have those pills. But an hour later, in my room, I knew I didn't have them. But Rocky Rhodes didn't have them either. Otherwise, they would have said something. And the pills didn't have to be in Phil's room. Which one was Rhodes, Miller, or Sheldon? I would have to find out by elimination. After dinner that night, I went into the main parlor.
Hey, how are you?
And Charlie Miller grabbed me and danced me over to the fire.
Here you are, Mrs. W. You sit here and have a high ball. And have a nice cozy chat with old Charlie.
You're so formal, Charlie. Call me Margot.
Margot? Bet your mother called you Maggie and you thought of Margot to use on the stage.
On the stage? How did you know I was an actress? This was the clue I've been looking for.
A guy with my experience can always tell.
You can?
Sure. And I know how you actresses operate. You all take different monikers. I bet you were great, baby.
I wasn't very good. There's only one way Miss Miller could have known about me being on the stage. From Phil.
You weren't very good. I know different, baby. So what if you only played Tank Towns? I sure wish I'd seen you.
You didn't miss much, really. Tank Towns. That was Phil's story, all right. Miller was Rocky Roads. He was just drunk enough to handle.
How about you and I go up to my room where we can be alone?
That wouldn't look right, Charlie. We could go out and sit in my car. It's in the garage.
Got a heater.
And a radio. The hotel's radio is broken. We can say that's why we're going to listen to music.
Wonderful. You're a wonderful little woman, Maggie. Full of ideas. Not a bad little wagon, baby. But this front seat's full of steering wheel. Let's get in the back.
It doesn't heat us well in the back.
How about a drink?
You first.
Okay. Right out of the bottle. Oh boy, this is what I call living. Music, plenty of bourbon, and a bombshell. Never saw such a delightful dish. Gonna give Charlie a kiss. Wow, sweeter than molasses. Getting warm enough. Now, baby, plenty warm. Could turn off that heater.
I'm still a little cold, Charlie. Just stay close to me. In a minute, we'll turn it off. Then, slowly he sagged against me, and his head fell on my shoulder. And when I pushed it away, he fell forward to the steering wheel. I hope no one heard that. I've got to get out of here before it gets me, too. I kept on my feet, going around the car. I was dizzy and getting numb. When a few feet from the garage door, I keeled over. For a minute or more, I couldn't move. Then I crawled toward the door. It took forever to get there. I opened the door somehow, pushed it shut, and half fell out and lay in the snow, breathing the clean air, thanking my lucky stars I've been smart enough not to drink. That's why I got Charlie sooner, because he was drunk. When I was able to stand, I looked at my watch and decided to wait 15 minutes. What a wonderful thing that carbon monoxide is. No smell, no nothing. It just creeps up on you. In 15 minutes, Charlie Miller, alias Rocky Roads, would be good and dead. He was dead, all right. They carried me into the room and gave me a drink and put me to bed. I went right to sleep knowing Rocky Roads was dead. But when I woke up, I remembered the car key. I had said Charlie started the car, but somebody might think to check the key for fingerprints and find mine. I put a fur coat on over my nightgown and ran all the way to the garage. I got in the car, reached for the keys, and they weren't there. Why? Why would anybody take my keys, and who would take them? Rocky Roads? No, he was dead. But was he? Had I killed the wrong man? I don't know how I ever got through breakfast.
That's too bad about Charlie, Margot. Stop worrying about it. It wasn't your fault. You look tired. Want to take a walk, get some fresh air?
I don't feel up to it.
I was planning to go out to that lookout cabin in the park.
No, I'm too lazy for that. I meant a short walk.
Is it a long climb, Miss Weatherby?
Long and steep, believe me. I only made it up there once, but my husband used to go there often.
I guess a good climb would do me good. Think I'll try it alone. Bye. I'll be back before dark.
Goodbye. Be careful, Susan.
I didn't even hear her leave. I was thinking about Phil's walk to the lookout cabin. There is where he hid the pills. I knew it. I knew it in my bones. Why hadn't I thought of it before? Oh, I'd have to hurry. I couldn't let anyone find those pills except me. I managed to get away from Sheldon and slipped out the back door without being seen. A ladder goes up from the trail to the lookout door. The door of the cabin stood open. I climbed the ladder quietly and stepped in and saw Susan on the other side of the room near the door to the balcony. She was holding an envelope attached to the card. She was reading an envelope attached to the card. She was reading the card. And suddenly, definitely, I knew. Miss Rocky Roads, I presume.
You scared me, Miss Weatherby.
I see you found what you're looking for. The pills my husband hid. You want to know if they're really poisonous?
I read this card. Is it some kind of joke?
Oh, no. It's no joke. One of them would kill a man, but that's not what killed Phil. I smothered him with a pillow. Bet you didn't know that.
You shouldn't be telling me this.
Phil told me you were coming, but I was expecting more. I would never dreamed Rocky Roads would be something so underwhelming.
You've mistaken me for someone else, really.
Oh, come off it. You're already responsible for Charlie Miller's death. Coming here under an assumed name, I killed him because I thought he was Rocky Roads.
You killed? Oh, no, you didn't. You're imagining things.
Stay where you are! You think you're gonna get out of here alive? And I wouldn't go through that door if I were you. You step right off into blank space.
But you can't do these things. They'll catch you.
Who? How? Those pills were the only evidence against me, and I'll destroy them as soon as you're gone.
Will you?
Stop! Stay where you are! You fool! What good did that do you throwing them out? Watch where they fall. Right there on the path. They'll stay there until I go down. But you played your last card. I'm not gonna waste any more time.
Let go, Miss Weatherby! Let go!
You're gonna go over the edge, Susie! You're gonna be another tragic accident. Let go of the table, you fool! Inch by inch. We're getting there. Now out on that porch!
I'll pull you over with me!
Will you? Will you really?
Someone's coming! Someone's coming! It's Mickey! Mickey!
You're crazy.
Mickey!
Let go of the railing! Let go! I'll...
Stop it! Stop it!
I remember falling in a sharp pain. And I don't remember anymore until I woke up here in the snow, unable to move, and found you bending over me. Who are you? Where did you come from?
I just came up from the village, Mrs. Weatherby. We know the whole story.
The whole story.
Now just take it easy, Mrs. Weatherby.
I know. You must be a doctor. But doctor, they'll never hang me.
No, Miss Weatherby, they'll never hang you. You're dying now.
No. No, I can't die. After all I've got to do to live. Where did Mickey go?
I'm right here, Mrs. Weatherby.
Like a vulture, waiting for me to die. You're Rocky Roads, aren't you, Mickey?
No, Mrs. Weatherby?
You're lying. It has to be you. You killed Charlie, and he wasn't Rocky Roads. And Susan wasn't. You have to be. I have to know. I have to kill Rocky, or I've done it all for nothing. Rocky Roads mustn't find those poison pills.
Your husband didn't die from poison, Mrs. Weatherby, so you'd have been safe even if the pills were found.
But Rocky Roads...
None of those people was Rocky Roads. Your own guilt made you suspicious of everything they did.
But there must be a Rocky Road. Phil said there was. Phil, there has to be a Rocky Road.
Is she dead, Doctor?
I'm afraid she is.
And there I was, being sorry for her husband being dead. And just think, she killed her husband and one of us, and none of us would have ever known if she hadn't told Susan all about it in the cabin. It was good of you to get here so fast, Doctor.
I'd have gotten here faster if it wasn't for the blizzard, and maybe none of this would have happened. By the way, I'm not a doctor, Mrs. Sheldon. My name is Rose. Rocky Rose.
Well, stop my telltale heart. Some people never learn. But let's be honest, none of these geezers were gonna get away with it for long. Anyways, ladies and gents, that's gonna conclude Suspense, a double feature radio and live stream drama. From the NCC Drama Players, special thanks to the technical talents of Big Bang Radio and Studio 67. This is Nyx, your lovely lady of the hours, greeting you good night and farewell.